So then on the attack side, is there a few basic areas similar to that as far as the offense goes?
Yeah. So where are we at for time here?
Oh yeah,
We're at 12:15. All right. So I'm going to do this as quick as I can. It's not going to be as quality as it could be, but hopefully it piques your interest. And if you're interested in learning more, stop on by or give me a call. All right. So there's three. I guess you could say there's three types. There's three types of people when it comes to how they spend their money. All right. There's spenders. That says spenders because you probably can't read it. All right. There's savers. Savers. These are the two most common types of people. All right. This is where about 90% of our society fits. Spenders and savers. All right. So this is what we're going to call our zero-sum line. This is where your net worth is, let's just for example's sake, zero. You might have $100,000 in cash, but $100,000 in debt, net worth zero. Okay. Or $0 cash, $0 debt, net worth zero. That's a whole nother topic of conversation on paying down debt, but
sure.
We're not going to get into amortized versus compounding interest today. So savers. So spenders, we all know these people, all right? When they got their first job out of college or anytime they get a raise, that money burns a hole in their pocket and they got to spend it, right? They don't wait to save up money. They just go buy the car and they pay it off. So let's use a car as an example. So they buy their car and then they, over a 5-year period or so, they pay it off, right? And by the time they've paid off this debt, if not before, they're like, well, I got this debt paid for. I'm going to go get a 4-wheeler or a boat or a nicer car, right?
Right.
Or a truck. They go get another thing and they pay it off, right? They accumulate assets, but they never really have wealth or they don't have money, all right? There's a difference between net worth and like cash flow, like spendable wealth, right? There's a lot of really rich farmers out there on a spreadsheet, but they're cash flow poor and it stresses the heck out of them. And I'm not digging farmers. It's just an easy example.
Sure.
Right? They might have $20 million worth of equipment and land, but they might have $100,000 in the bank account. Right, which might sound like a lot, but from a ratio standpoint, it's not that much. All right, so spenders, they just keep borrowing and paying off, borrowing, paying off, borrowing, paying off, right? Savers, on the other hand, they can't stand debt. They refuse to have it, right? So when they get out of college or they get their new job or they get a raise, they save, and they spend and they buy whatever they're going to buy, the car, all right? They had to wait,
right,
but they didn't have to pay interest. They save, buy something else, right? They're always saving and spending down their account. At the end of the picture, where do they both end up from a cash flow standpoint?
Same spot,
right? Which is not perfect, as we know,
sure,
right? It's a hypothetical example. So I've had people get mad at me. They're like, well, the saver's going to have more money because they didn't pay interest. But point is,
sure,
at the end of the day, from a cash flow standpoint, they're pretty much in the same spot. Okay, so when we look at the spender compared to the saver, what cost does the spender have that the saver doesn't?
The interest and
interest
holding the.
Correct. For these 5 years or so, they have to pay interest, right? Some sort of percentage of interest that's going to cost them money, and they're never going to get that money back. It's gone, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one of the biggest costs of the spender is the interest they lost. They could have otherwise spent other right, places. Here's the tricky question. What's the biggest cost to the saver?
Time.
Time, can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Well, the spender gets to get their thing right away.
From
and the saver has to wait. So I guess you'd have to spend the time to get the thing.
Okay. So you're 100% right with the word time, but not the way you explained it. Let me show you what I mean. All right. So Albert Einstein said, I believe it said the 8th wonder of the world was compounding interest.
Sure.
All right. So are you familiar with how compounding works?
Yes.
Right? So as we can see, it's pretty boring in the beginning, and then it explodes. All right? And everything in our industry, we understand the power of compounding, but for some reason, traditional planning teaches you how to stop using it. Let me elaborate. For a saver, when they're saving, the second they spend down their account, they lose their compounding.
Sure.
Right? What they could have had is no more.
Right.
They're saving, spending it down, spending it down. Let me use some real life examples. One of the most common financial tools that's marketed to parents today, 529 plans. You save for 18 years. You're getting little to no compounding interest because you're early in the curve. And we can show you mathematical examples, but we're not going to get into that. And then one day, when your kid wants to go to college, good job. You saved for them. You gave them a huge opportunity that many parents weren't able to afford. But now you're going to spend down your account, which lowers your compounding curve. Who gets to enjoy the compounding of that money? You or the financial institution, aka the college?
Sure.
The college, right? The next one. You save for another one you might save for if you're well off and like to support your kids is their wedding one day. Save, save, save. Kids get married. You got to pay it off. You just lowered your compounding curve. That money you can't ever go back in time. The word you said, time, is the only resource we never get back, right? Unless you believe in time travel, which I'm not getting into that. So, right, paying for your kid's wedding, buying new vehicles, going on vacations, unexpected life events. Every time you take money off of a compounding curve, you've now lowered your curve. Because where you start, your maximum point, you can never go back in time. Do we agree?
Yep.
All right, here's the big kicker. From your knowledge of investing in the stock market, when you near retirement, do they tell you to increase or decrease your risk?
Decrease your risk.
You decrease it, right? So just when you're getting close to retirement, and just when your compounding curve is about to take off, they decrease your risk, which decreases your potential for growth. Interesting, isn't it? So as you're getting closer to exploding on your compounding curve, decrease your risk, decrease your growth potential, and now you're down here. Kind of an oxymoron, isn't it?
Interesting.
And I get why they say that, because traditional planning, we have to decrease the risk of losing your money. We're also decreasing the risk or the potential gain of growing your money too.
Sure.
So I'm not recommending a product, but I'm just saying a philosophy standpoint, we're lowering our curve. And this is why so many people, when they start their financial plan and think they're going to get up there, they get to be 65 years old and they're down here and they have no idea why. They've done everything right. They save for their kids' college. They save for their kids' wedding. They paid off their house as fast as they could, which I don't believe in that, but hey, we'll have that conversation another day. They paid off their house as fast as they could. They lowered their risk as they got older, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, but I thought I was supposed to have $10 million, now I have $2 million. Why is that? It's because they didn't use their life compounding curve. They used short-term compounding curves.
Right.
So the number one loss for a saver and the spender, but that's on top of the interest,
right,
is they don't lose their compounding curve.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Interesting, isn't it? Have you ever thought about money in this way?
I mean, I've thought of it in terms like if you spend all that you have, whether you're going into debt or you're spending what you saved, you're not growing anywhere. I'm assuming that the third one is an investor or something that you would call it, where you're actually making sure that you're not spending everything back to the zero line, or how do you? Sorry, I shouldn't jump ahead.
No, that's
okay. That's where we're going.
No, I like where your head's at. That's why I try to ask questions, because I don't ever want to assume I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
All right. So the third type of person is a wealth creator. All right. So I don't want to get into politics, but I'm a firm believer in moral capitalism. I add the word moral because capitalism can be used for bad things too. So I believe in moral capitalism. Capitalism with morality, right?
Yeah.
But the reason why every time there's a market correction, 5 to 10% of our country gets richer and another 90% gets poorer is because 5 to 10% are wealth creators and about another 90% are spenders or savers. All right. Example being, let's say you're a great saver. Let's say you save 20% of your income into your traditional 401k. Mm-hmm. The market corrects by 39% like it did in 2008. What are your choices? You can either ride it out, leave it because you know it should rebound, or you can pull it out and therefore cement your losses. Right? You can't get that money back once you pull it out of the market.
Right.
Right. At the same time, so here's the market. At the same time, housing went 50 cents on the dollar. If you wanted to get into real estate, where are you going to pull that money from? If all the money you have saved is in the market,
right? How
are you going to get in the real estate game at the best time to buy? Because the houses are going at 50 cents on the dollar. Commercial real estate is going 50 cents on the dollar.
Can't.
Because all your money's tied up. Or you can, but you're going to lock in your losses over here, right? So that's where savers get in trouble, is they have all their money locked up. It comes down to cash flow. Right? I said this to you earlier. What's the Number one, the biggest differential of creating wealth versus not in times of opportunity is access to cash.
Right.
So a wealth creator understands the importance of liquidity and using other people's money. All right, there's multiple ways to do this, but I'm just going to give you one example. Do you believe banks are in the business of making money?
Yes.
Right? How well they are at doing it is arguable depending on how politically you want to get into it, but we're not going to get into that at all. So I'm just going to, are you familiar with how banks make money?
I guess interest on loans.
You're right. Right. You're exactly right. So just to outline that, banks are a perfect example of wealth creators because banks use what's called collateral capacity to use other people's money. All right. What I mean by that is they don't invest their money in high risk stuff, right? Each bank's different, but they're not going out and trying to time the market with individual stocks.
Right.
If they are, I'm guessing they'd get in trouble by their board and Federal Reserve and stuff like that. So they invest their money in very conservative ways that grows over time. But their compounding curve is so extreme because these banks are in business for hundreds and 150 years. Can you imagine having a 150-year long compounding curve? You and I only have about a 40, 50-year one because of when we start saving and things like that, right? So they have a bunch of money, all right? If I go to the bank and I deposit $10,000 into a checking account, what interest do you think they pay me?
They pay you?
Yeah, what interest do you think I'll get on my checking account or my savings account from a bank?
Somewhere close to inflation. Very little.
Very little. 3% would be pretty high. If I got 3, that'd be great. But my last statement was probably like 0.01. But hey, let's just say I go to the nicest bank ever and they pay me 3%.
Okay.
Or I use an online bank that are somewhat aggressive with less liquidity.
Right.
If the next day you go and you borrow $10,000 to go make an upgrade to your business, CrossFit Great North, how much do you think what interest do you think they're going to charge you?
Substantially more.
Just give me a number. There's nothing wrong. I'm just curious. I'll use the example. 6%. So they paid me 3, a really nice bank, and they charged you 6. What's their rate of return on this transaction?
3%.
It seems like it's 3. 6 minus 3.
Yeah, if you don't factor in the compound.
Right. So there's 2 parts to that. One, they didn't use their money. They used my money. All right. So I'm going to change colors. Hopefully this shows up on the board. All right.
Yeah.
So this whole time, they left their money on the compounding curve because they understand the importance of compounding.
Right.
They paid me, in this hypothetical example, $300. They took my money and they gave it back to you. They don't give you their money. They give you my money. Banks are only required to have like 10% of all their debt in reserve. They use other people's money to make more money.
It's beautiful.
All right. So, and they charged you $600. So they paid me 3 and they made 6. So is that 3% or is it 300%? Rate of return on that one transaction plus their millions of billions of dollars gets to continuously grow on the compounding curve. And a bank that's really good at what they can do this up to 8 times with my money alone.
Wow.
So if you transition this to your own personal life, imagine having money that you could continuously, so we'll use the circle again, that instead of spending it once, like the saver uses their money one time and then it's gone. It's off the compounding curve. Imagine having the ability to take your money, buy a business or a rental property, pay yourself back, and your money stays in the compounding curve. And you keep doing this multiple times, and over your life, rather than buying a business one time, you've used the same money to buy 8 businesses, and now you have 8 streams of income, plus your money stays in the compounding curve.
Seems better.
So that's what we call creating wealth. That's wealth creation. All right. So there's multiple ways to do it, and we're not going to get in extreme detail right now. But the philosophy behind it is, from an offensive standpoint, you have to decide for yourself. There's no wrong answer. Do you want to be a spender or a saver or a wealth creator?
I would like to be a wealth creator.
All right. So if you're entrepreneurial, that's usually what you pick. And I have a lot of people who just want to put them out. Well, they want their money out of sight, out of mind, and they want to be savers, and that's okay.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that. If you're a spender, it's probably we're not going to work together because there's not a whole lot I can do for you. But we can try. I can try to help you get better. But does that analogy help?
Yeah, 100%.
Any questions on that before I start erasing everything?
No, that's lovely.
All right. So